There's some things that are so important that every culture in the entire world accepts them to be true. One of these things is the concept of stealing. There's not a single culture in the world that does not have some sort of law against stealing. In fact, every culture that has ever existed in the entire history of humankind has had a law against stealing. Something so important that the very hand of God came out of the sky and etched it in stone, and yet it's such a simple concept that you can explain it to a toddler. When you take something that does not belong to you, that's stealing. It doesn't matter what you do with it after you steal it. The very act of taking something that doesn't belong to you is the crime. Rex Anderson, Ariel Nicely, unknown political appointee, Charles Meeker, Brandy Flannery, Susan Holman, Roxy Hall, you took something that did not belong to you. You're thieves. You robbed from the future generation of Ozark, Arkansas. If that moron lives another 20 years, that's $500,000 that's not available to this community. That's $500,000 that you had no right to dispense. You had to change the rules in order to do it. Well, it doesn't matter whether you change the rules to make it legal. It still makes you a thief. And everyone outside of this little bubble that y'all are living in is looking at this story at the exact same way that I am. You're thieves. You took something that didn't belong to you. Now, you gave it to somebody else, someone that's undeserving, but the very act of taking that money, and you had to do it in such an underhanded way, you had to change the rules. You should be ashamed of yourself. My God, I couldn't look my children in the eye if I did something like that. There is no spinning of this. There is no rationalizing of this. I'm sure you've got your reasons for doing it, but they're not legitimate. Let me remind you that the per capita income in this town is $12,583. And you just chose to change the rules so you could give somebody who worked 9 years in a job double that amount for the rest of their natural life without ever doing another thing. If you can't see that as wrong, then there's absolutely no hope for you. You're evil at that point. If you, honest to God, can see that that's not wrong, then you have an evil heart. You can't oppress people forever. Eventually, people are going to get enough of this. $12,583 a year for someone to live on. And in case you're not keeping up with things, that means Ozark, Arkansas is one of the poorest towns in the entire state of Arkansas. Can you believe it? I've been to what I thought was the poorest part of Arkansas over in the Mississippi River Delta area. But you know what? It's worse here. The numbers don't lie. This is one of the poorest towns in the entire state. And now we know why. It's because of decade after decade after decade of robbing these people that work their asses off to give you the taxes that you're supposed to spend, that everybody gets to benefit from how you spend it. Nobody wants to work 7 days a week, long shifts at a damn turkey plant. Nobody wants to do that. But you know why we do things like that? Because we have to. We have to make money for our family. We have to go to work every day and earn a living. And then to take that money that we worked our asses off and to pull a huge percentage of it out and give it to the local government, only to find out that they're going to dispense $500,000 to someone who self-admitted that they're a thief. Well, you're a thief too. I'm so goddamn mad. I don't know. I'd like to punch somebody. But you know what? You keep right on doing it, because there's going to be a day of reckoning. And what you just did is corrupt. Go look it up. Go look at other places and how the federal government defines corruption. You're going to eventually have a day of reckoning. And that's, the only thing that brings me a little bit of pleasure is that I hope to God that justice is at one day served in this town. For me, I'm shaking the dust off and moving on. I'm not staying in a town where there is no hope and where you care so little about the people that you're willing to steal from them. People are hurting in this town. It's not some kind of fantasy I'm coming up with. Why don't you take your head out of the cell phone, council members, and drive around town and look at the pain and the suffering. There's people that are struggling to have the basic necessities of life. They don't have enough food to eat. And you're handing a thief $24,000 a year for the rest of her life. Shame on you. You're wrong on this. You're so wrong on this that it is sinful. And I don't know. I don't know what else to say. If you can't see it, then you're never going to see it. As I said, if you can't see that stealing $500,000 from the taxpayers in this town is wrong, and it's robbing future generations of money that could be spent for things to alleviate the suffering, then you're just plain evil. I believe that people should be rewarded for their achievements. I believe that accolades should be given to people based on merit, based on performance, based on how hard they worked to achieve success. This is what has allowed society to exist forever. It's what has allowed cultures to flourish for millennia. When you reward corruption and you give merit to people who are involved in wrongdoing, then you yourself have to accept the label of being corrupt. That's not my rule, that's society's rule. And as I just stated, that's the rule that has been in existence since humanity has clustered together into towns, villages, and cities. Not only did you reward corruption and therefore take on the label of corrupt, but you changed the rules so you could reward corruption. It's ridiculous that you had to change the rules to reward someone who, by self-incrimination, stole from the city of Ozark. How shameful is that? This is corrupt. There's no other word for it. You changed the rules in order to reward somebody. You didn't change the rules to repair Mr. Day's driveway. That's been in the council's meetings lately. You didn't change the rules to fix that. You didn't change the rules to help a grieving mother find a way to memorialize her dead son. You haven't changed the rules to stop taxing the poor people in this town for their groceries. You didn't change the rules so senior citizens can come walk at that multi-million-dollar community center for free. You still charge them a fee to come in there and walk where it's dry and climate controlled. You didn't change the rules for that. You haven't changed the rules so that council members don't get paid when they don't show up for a meeting. You still collect your check when you're out of town when a meeting occurs. You haven't changed those rules. You didn't change the rules so Orla Larson could put his name in the hat to be a council member. I don't remember you changing the rules for him. You didn't change the rules so Colonel Gardner could run in opposition to Susan Holman. No, didn't change those rules. You haven't changed the rules so our senior citizens get more money to help them out. You haven't changed those rules. You haven't changed any rules that help the nearly third of this town that's living in poverty. I don't see any rule changes there. Statistically, there's about 200 kids in this town that'll go to bed hungry tonight. You haven't changed those rules. I'm disgusted. I am just disgusted. What you did is just disgusting and corrupt. The entire Ozark City Council is illegitimate anyway. You have 4 people that ran unopposed. That's not representative government. And then the 4 cronies get in there and they appoint 2 more. It's not a legitimate governing body, so why should we expect you to not be corrupt? To the illegitimate Ozark City Council, why don't you do a Google search of Crystal City, Texas? Those are your comrades. You see, you're not above the law. And I just hope that someday you're going to have a day of reckoning. But until then, maybe have a little bit of reading fun, seeing what happened in Crystal City, Texas. You know, the biggest thing about this is you don't think you're corrupt. Well, hell, I go to church with her. She's not corrupt. Well, what you did is corrupt. You legitimized somebody who has cost this city tens of thousands of dollars. I'll go over a few things now for you to refresh your memory. Sonya Eveld did not do her job for 9 years. You know, I could see that maybe you could change the rules if this was a beloved member of our community and they had worked tirelessly to better this community and done their job well, but that's not the case here. This is a person who wasn't even making payments to the IRS on time, getting the city fined thousands and thousands of dollars. She didn't scan documents for 9 years. It cost the city $8,400. And then it costs the city more to pay her and her husband to drive up to Kansas to get these documents when it was all just a bullshit scam so they could go to a St. Louis Cardinals baseball game. And we paid for it. And now you're rewarding that? This man and woman have nearly bankrupted this city. We borrowed $10 million to build a community center that we can't afford. And now the money coming in that you anticipated would cover paying that loan, the principal and the interest, it's fallen nearly $10,000 a year short. This is insane that you would reward this. Those 2 people spent nearly $12,000 just on hotel rooms. I have check after check after check. And it goes on and on and on, where she used the city's Bank of America card like it was her own, buying personal stuff. Anyway, you slice that, that is stealing. And that's what she told us she did. Can you imagine? I'm talking to you, city council members again. Can you imagine getting on the internet and reading a story about a city council voting to give a full pension to a retiring clerk that only worked 9 years and is currently under a police investigation, and you decide to give her full retirement pay? What would you say if you read that in a story? You'd say the whole damn town's corrupt. And I don't know of a company on the planet that would allow you to work for 9 years and then receive a full pension. What the hell are y'all doing over there? Everybody in the city of Ozark knows this is wrong. Anyone reading this from outside of the city of Ozark, they're going to think y'all are corrupt. Do you not see that? These are not my rules. This is the way society judges people like you. They're going to look at this, and we don't have to go far. We can probably go to Clarksville. But if we go to any city in the United States and tell them this story, they're going to think that y'all are corrupt. There's not a company anywhere in the world that would let somebody work for 9 years and then give them nearly $25,000 a year for the rest of their life? Nowhere would that happen. But you went and you did that. And everybody from coast to coast, when they hear that story, they're going to put your names with corruption. Do you not get that? Do you not understand that that's what's going to happen? Redeem yourselves. Go back into those council chambers and vote to rescind changing the rules so you can reward someone who self-incriminated to stealing using the city's credit card. The books at City Hall are a mess. I just showed you one example where we don't even know how much it costs to build that extra lane at the pool. And if Nabholz's number is right and Sonya Eveld's number is wrong, then there's $230-something thousand missing. And that $10 million that we borrowed to build the community center, well, I've looked at the bill and it's $6,800,000 and change. Where's the rest of that money? Because see, we don't owe $10 million. Now we owe 13. When we pay back the interest, we have to pay back $13 million. I cannot believe that you rewarded someone who has been terrible at their job, has been corrupt at their job, and is under a police investigation. I hope the police nail your ass to the wall over this. I hope the people in this town see this and are disgusted by it and show up at the next meeting and demand that you stop acting like this. Redeem yourself. Roll this back and do the right thing. You have to know in your heart that what you did was not the right thing. That's all I got to say for now. I'm sick at my stomach that you did this. But you know what? You have to live with being you. And you have to look your kids in the eye and tell them that you don't have any character. You do that, I'm good to go. I'm just grateful that I'm not connected to this city in any way anymore. I'm wrapping all this up. You're going to get all the information I have, all the information that was withheld from the investigators, all the information that your council members have tried to keep secret, all the stuff that's locked up in boxes and in rooms that nobody will ever see at all. It's all coming out, and I'm leaving this lawless town full of evil, corruption, and perversions. Yeah, perversions. We'll talk about the perverts. Oh, hopefully we'll get that video done and out by Thanksgiving. Okay, stay tuned. Congratulations, Roxy, on the win at being the captain of the poorest town in the state of Arkansas. And now you're doubling down to make sure it stays that way. You're an asshole.